sheet. 26 sheets to a set, one for each letter of the alphabet. And what they did, they put these sheets on top of each other on a glass-topped table with bright lights underneath, and they manoeuvred them around. I don't know how it works. They manoeuvred these things around, and it gave them a starting position for these three wheels on the Enigma machine. And once they'd done that, they were a long way towards breaking into the message. And they were having some success. But once the Germans made these machines more complex, that stumped them as well. By this time, war was about to break, so they thought they probably ought to start sharing with the Brits and the French the progress they'd made and how they'd done it. So they called a meeting, just before the war started, just outside Warsaw, a place called Pyry, in a forest there. Dilly Knox went to it, as did Commander Denniston, head of this place, and three people from the French cryptography department. The Poles brought to this meeting a cloned Enigma machine, because they'd worked out how they worked. Now, the French have been asking for years, how much progress have you made, and the Poles have declined to tell them. So they're a little bit, a bit annoyed when they realised that the Poles had made some progress. Anyway, they showed them what they'd done. The people here were amazed. Dilly Knox and Denniston realised it was going to be mathematicians that were going to break into these things, not analysts of language. And at that time, of course, they started to recruit people like Alan Turing, Gordon Welshman, and others. Anyway, what they said is, give us a set of your sheets. We've got far more resources back at Bletchley Park than you have. Let's see what we can do with them. So they brought a set back here, gave them to a chap called Jeffries. He had a department here, and he always produced a production line with these things, rather than cutting all these $1,000 with razor blades. Had a production line knocking out these sheets. We developed them further, because we knew the Germans had developed the machine. We pinched the type, of course. We called them Jeffrey sheets from then on, after our own bloke. And by the end of 1939, we had our own working set of these sheets. By now, we've got people like Alan Turing working here. Alan Turing took a set of these new sheets, our sheets, the Jeffrey sheets, back to the French cryptography department, because by then, of course, war had started. The Poles had managed to escape. They'd been caught once or twice. They'd been beaten up a bit, but fortunately the Germans didn't know what they knew, or they would have been shot. So they handed these sheets, or Turing handed these sheets over, and in effect said, this is what we've done with them, see what you can do with them now. And in December 1939, the Poles made their very first break back into the military standard Enigma messages. And just 1 week later, in that little house there, at the beginning of January 1940, Dilly Knox and his team did the same for us. So we're rather proud of that little house there. Now, I must tell you that the Poles, without them, of course, would have been miles behind, but the Poles had a bit of an advantage. The Poles had bought some secrets from a German traitor. A chap called Hans Thilo Schmidt worked in the German cryptography department, and he offered some secrets, firstly to the Brits, you know what we're like, we said no thank you. He then offered them to the French, and they similarly declined. But the Poles living next door, they said, yeah, we'll have some of that. So they bought some secrets, so that's why they had a bit of a head start on us. But clearly without what the Poles had done, we would have been miles behind.